Four divisions, four hosts, all battling it out for the Holy GrAHL of the American Hockey League, the Calder Cup. This is the Holy GrAHL Podcast with Andrew Rinaldi, Deana Weinheimer, Jeremy Paul, Michael Liu, and Zack Powell.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 23 for March 24th of Field Pass Hockey's AHL podcast, The Holy GrAHL. And as we were talking pre-show, we are out of that Taylor Swift era, so make of that what you will. But here at The Holy GrAHL, we're all about the American Hockey League and their yearly race to their Holy GrAHL, the Calder Cup. And of course, before we get too far into this, we're just going to go around the screen here, introduce ourselves to anyone who may be new or those that may have forgotten who we are. But we're going to make it easy on all of us. And as always, we're going to have Andrew kick it off as we're going to go in alphabetical order.
All right. So for those who, have short-term memory problems, I'm Andrew Rinaldi. I cover the Chicago Wolves and Grand Rapids Griffins here at Field Pass Hockey. This is my second season, and we're out of the Taylor Swift era and onto Blink 182. Nobody likes you when you're 23, but this is episode 23, and we're rolling.
Well, I hope people like us. And speaking of short attention spans, I know someone who has that right now, and that is most definitely my 10-week-old puppy. She has massive short-term memory loss. But anyway, hi everyone, I'm Deana Weinheimer. I am the AHL editor and the Cleveland Monsters correspondent at Field Pass Hockey in my third season. Boy, I can't believe we're on episode 23 already. This has flown.
I mean, the season is just almost a month. The end of the season is only a month away. It's kind of crazy to be in this position. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael. I cover the Abbotsford Canucks, the newest member of the AHL fold. And this is my first season here, so it works out. Rookie season for a rookie season.
Yeah, and I'm Zack Powell in my third season now, and it's exciting to be here. And I think that quote Deana, I don't know about me, but I'm feeling 23. So we'll keep it at that.
I thought that joke was just going to die with our little pre-recording chat, but apparently not. Anyway, I'll just blush and move on. So moving on to breaking news, actually. So the NHL to AHL player move freeze is now in effect. So what does that mean for everybody? Basically, any player that was on an NHL roster when their trade deadline passed this past Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern time has now been ruled ineligible for the remainder of the AHL season in 2022 Calder Cup playoffs. So chances are you saw a flurry of moves if you pay attention to your team's Twitter or maybe the AHL transaction page. So if you saw a whole bunch of moves and you're just thinking, well, what in the world? These guys were down for a day. Now they're back up. What's going on? That's what it is. It was teams making more players eligible to come in as reinforcements down the AHL playoff stretch and into the Calder Cup playoffs. But just a reminder, this is only for players coming down from the National Hockey League. Of course, any of the AHL teams can still add players from the ECHL, juniors, and the collegiate ranks as those games finish up here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our week in review. And as always, we have to hand out awards to the AHL Player of the Week. This time, player we've talked a lot about, Stockton Heat forward Jakob Pelletier. Now, he has scored 5 goals and added 2 assists for 7 points in just 4 games. Last Monday, he got a pair of goals to lead Stockton to a 3-1 win over the Bakersfield Condors. Then after being held off the score sheet on Wednesday against the Condors, he came back with a goal and an assist at Colorado on Friday night. And then a 2-goal, 3-point effort as the Heat was the first team to clinch a playoff berth with a 10-3, yes, I'll say that again, 10-3 win over the Eagles this past Saturday. Wow, guys, what a performance.
How many games has Stockton scored 10 goals in now? I feel like it's been multiple for sure, but is it 3 or 2. I've completely lost count. Well, at any rate, we spoke a lot about Pelletier last week, and I mean, again, the karma just keeps rolling around here at the Holy GrAHL. But we were talking a lot about him possibly being moved, a big name, big piece, maybe at the trade deadline.
Yeah, well, I think that Pelletier has actually been like one of the biggest stars on their team, and we kind of talked a little bit about it last week in the show, and where he was going to move and kind of what was going to happen here, because we didn't know if he was going to be traded or whatnot, and it's kind of hard to kind of imagine how valuable of a player he is towards the Stockton and Calgary franchise. For me, I was actually expecting him to kind of move up to the NHL a little bit, kind of give him a shot in the playoffs. This could be the next like Cole Caulfield kind of thing, where he just kind of gets the call up out of nowhere in the back end of the season, and then he goes off on the playoffs. Because to me, he's kind of proved himself in the AHL, and I think that this is another kind of valuable piece and a step to learn. And it's like what Andrew was kind of saying too, is how many 10-goal games have we seen from Stockton so far this season, right? Like this is definitely the third or fourth time that I've seen them pound 10, especially against a good team in Colorado. So keep rolling, and they're the first team to clinch a spot in the playoffs.
And it's well deserved. I mean, Stockton heads and shoulders have been the best team in the Pacific, and a large part of that is thanks to Pelletier. And I mean, credit to the Flames scouting, or the Flames organization, scouting, development. I mean, they've got something good in Pelletier, and it's nice to see them hang on to a highly touted forward prospect as opposed to dealing him away to add for a playoff run. It's good. It's encouraging to see, and especially for the farm, for the AHL, it's good to have him. It's good to have him in this division to see this caliber. And I mean, the Pacific Division is a competitive one where you have 4 or 5 teams that could be really dangerous in the Calder Cup playoffs. So for Stockton to hang on to him is a big piece moving forward, especially if they want to continue defending their position as the best team in the Pacific.
I have to agree. It's incredible asset management. And also, I think I just think it's just great overall. I mean, go ahead and let him play for something so meaningful down in the American Hockey League, because what is that going to do for his confidence if he can help this Stockton team go and potentially win a Calder Cup?
And I mean, like, with how it's looking, it's a very good chance, as they have one of their top scorers. I mean, Wolf's down here like tearing it up.
Yep, just great asset management all around. They are doing it right. Speaking of doing things right, we do have to give a shout out to a team we just kind of talked about just a little bit, the Colorado Eagles. Now, hockey is an incredibly close-knit community, and the Colorado Eagles have put that on fine display, as this past weekend they held a fundraiser for a 5-year-old in the community, Jace Vogel, who's been battling stage 4 metastatic neuroblastoma since he was only 6 months old. So we here at the Holy GrAHL just want to give major props to the team, the organization, and the fans for rallying around this cause, and this past weekend raising over $115,000 to help Joyce out. That's just amazing. Major props to all of them. Stick taps all around. And also, we'd like to give a couple congratulations. Few milestones have been hit. So first, Abbotsford's Brandon Hickey, who played in his 100th game in the American Hockey League on Sunday. And then Rockford's Brent Connolly, who recently played his 700th pro game. I'm sure Michael can speak a little bit on Brandon and what he means to that Abbotsford team in their first season.
Well, I mean, Hickey came in and just started performing. I mean, Abbotsford has been dealing with a lot of injuries, and at one point it was pretty bad, dressing 3 forward lines, 2 defensive pairings. And I mean, this guy came in on an ATO PTO and he just stepped up and earned himself a full ride in Abbotsford. I mean, there's nothing more you can ask out of a guy just to step up into a role, and he's been getting better along with the rest of the team. So 100th AHL game, it's not the end for him. There's so much more that he can offer.
And before we can move into the bulk of the show here, which is going to be covering all the NHL trade deadline moves that impacted the American Hockey League, we do want to extend a little reminder that the American Hockey League trade and loan deadline is coming up this coming Monday, March 28th at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to have coverage here at Field Pass Hockey. We'll have all of the roundup in next week's Holy GrAHL. And also, if something big goes down, we will have it on our socials. If you need them, we'll get them to you at the end of the show. All right, guys. So that's kind of a quick overview of some of the stories from the last week. Who's ready to dive into this massive list of trade deadline moves? Zack is just a little excited. We got 2 thumbs up from Michael, and Andrew's just smiling. So I think that is a yes from everybody. So we're going to kick it off. And basically how we're going to frame this is we're just going to kind of do this by division, what teams are getting which players. We'll just kick it off east to west, makes the most sense with the Atlantic. So, of course, Saturday kind of kicked everything off with that huge Claude Giroux trade. Not surprisingly, there were several AHL impacts to that trade. So the Charlotte Checkers are receiving forwards Connor Bunneman and German Rupstov. And then the Grand Rapids Griffins are losing what I want to call an iconic defender. Whenever I think the Grand Rapids Griffins and defense, the first person I think of is Luke Witkowski. Of course, he's also sometimes forward, depends on the game, but he is off to either St. Louis or their AHL affiliate in Springfield. I don't think that's been fully determined yet, but looks like those Thunderbirds might be getting a huge assist back on their defensive end. Then right wing Nick Merkley is going coast to coast. The former San Jose Barracuda is headed back east. This time, he's going to be with the Hartford Wolfpack in exchange for defenseman Anthony Potetto. And then Victor Rask, who has spent part of the season with the Iowa Wild, is off to Seattle for future considerations. Our favorite trade piece.
Prunovich and Witkowski. I can't wait. That would be the one too. Probably won't happen. But meanwhile, in the North,
it'll happen.
It could. The North was fun as well. The Colorado Avalanche acquired Arturi Lehkonen from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for defenseman Justin Barron and a second-round pick in the 2024 NHL draft. And Barron has spent his last few seasons with the Eagles so far. And 2 really great swaps kind of thing for both these teams. I'm sure a lot of Habs fans are hurting to see Lecky go. But it's the way it is in hockey. The other side of it, too, is I think that one trade might have had the biggest impact on their former team. North Division leader Utica is losing Nate Schnarr, and who's going after the Canadiens for Andrew Hammond, the Habburglar, some might call them. I have to throw that in there. And for forward Riley Nash, it's been about 9 years since he saw AHL action, but he was acquired by the Lightning as a really good depth piece, and he's going to be sent down to Syracuse. Really good ad for the crunch, especially in the playoff crunch. So that'll be kind of interesting to see as well. And finally, continuing, Zachary Senshin is on the move from Providence to Belleville. This is the first time in his pro career, which started in 2016, 2017, where he's played for someone other than Providence and the Boston Bruins kind of organization. One of these great players who's really been a cornerstone for the franchise, especially in the Bruins side of thing, a great prospect picked up in 2015. Bubble player, which has been 2016-17 rather. A bubble player which has been between Bakersfield and Edmonton. William Lagesson is now heading east to the Montreal Canadiens, who were clearly the buyers and movers in this trade deadline. He, along with a conditional second-round pick in 2022 and a seventh in 2024, that's a part of the Brett Kulak trade for that team as Montreal moves their defenseman. Goaltender Michael McNiven is on the move again, and this time he's going off to the Senators for future considerations from Calgary. It was only not too long ago where he was traded from the Montreal organization after they stocked up on goaltending, and now they're moving all of them everywhere. And again, the marvelous future considerations trade is showing its light. And finally, the San Jose Barracuda goaltender Alexei Melanchuk is off to the Lightning organization. Going the other way is Antonio Morand. So lots of great stuff going on to the north, but I hear it's pretty hot in the Central Division.
Oh, it's always hot in the Central. So those future considerations, they're popping right back up here with our first trade in the Central. We got defenseman Alex Biega going over to Nashville from Toronto. So those future considerations going the other way. And I think the biggest one in division, you got Morgan Barron coming in from the Wolfpack over to Manitoba as, along with a couple picks, he was the return in the Andrew Kopp deal between Winnipeg and the Rangers. I think that's going to be huge for a Moose squad that's just buzzing right now to add a giant piece like that. And then sometimes, you get these big trade packages, but at the same time, there are these trades that are just one for one at the same position. And so that moves on to our next one, where we see Nelson Auger and Marcus Phillips being moved for each other. Phillips was on the Reign and he will now be playing for the Moose, while Auger will be moving over to Ontario. And yeah.
It segues in perfectly for the Pacific Division, since Noche will be going on to a very, very, very good Ontario team that isn't first only because Stockton has been on a tear. Anyways, in the Pacific, there were still moves that went down as well. Sunday afternoon, Gerald Mayhew was claimed by Anaheim, most likely going to report to the San Diego Gulls because he has a home in the AHL, and that's what makes the most sense for him at this juncture. On Tuesday, Tyler Gorborn was traded from the Belleville Sens to the Stockton Heat in exchange for future considerations once more. So, I mean, at this point, there's a bunch of future considerations jerseys that whoever's a fan of future considerations, you got a ton of jerseys to go out and buy. The Seattle Kraken, they acquired forward Victor Rask from Minnesota Wild in exchange for future considerations, as mentioned previously. Right now, since the Coachella Valley Firebirds don't exist just yet, Rask will most likely be reporting to the Charlotte Checkers, where there's an affiliation agreement for now with Seattle. And finally, the Los Angeles Kings acquired defenseman Frederick Allard from the Nashville Predators in exchange for forward Braden Burke. Both look to be at an AHL level acquisition, and it's an interesting move. Braden Burke was a decent part of the Ontario Reign top 9. But the Reign just get more stacked on the back end. I mean, they've kind of needed it. Yeah, since all the injuries up in the big leagues have resulted in players like Sean Dursey playing 22 minutes in the LA Kings top four instead of playing top pairing minutes in the AHL.
So as far as we know, that's all of the impact to the American Hockey League from a very busy trade deadline day. So guys, what are your thoughts? Personally, I think Milwaukee, Belleville, and Laval really look good going down the stretch now. They added some very important pieces. Plus, as Andrew mentioned, you cannot count out what a veteran presence somebody like Riley Nash will make for the Crunch. I know personally, when he played for the Columbus Blue Jackets, he was constantly put on the line with the rookie players, the call-ups from the Cleveland Monsters. He just has that nice calming presence. I don't really want to call him a babysitter, but he just works really well with the young kids. So this is a great move, not only to help bolster that Syracuse Crunch squad, just clawing and scratching trying to get into this expanded playoff format. But just overall, if something happens to the Bolts, they have a very nice, dependable call up. Plus, all of the nice Syracuse crunch young guys will get to benefit from his knowledge and his experience.
And there's something to be said too about having a veteran player on your line anytime you're in the AHL, because this very is much a developmental league. And I think you said it best. Like, those are clearly the winners. I tend to think back to the Montreal Laval organization, where it was only a couple weeks ago we were talking, okay, well, what's going to happen with the goaltending in Montreal, because something needs to change. Again, they had to move Hammond, and as much as I don't think that they entirely wanted to, they didn't really have much choice. You have Montebo, you have Allen. Eventually, Price is going to come back. We keep talking about, like, they had Primo and Hammond, and especially McNiven, and there's probably names I'm forgetting. So it's one of those things where they were kind of forced to play their hand, and I think that they kind of got they got a really good side coming back from the Utica Comets. And so I think that they were one of the great big winners, and we'll have to kind of see what kind of happens from here.
I've already spoken on my love for Barron and what he's going to bring to Manitoba, but I'm a big believer in these guys coming over to Charlotte right now, between Rubstov and Bunneman and Victor Rask. I think, he came down to Iowa when he was placed on waivers and made an immediate impact on that squad. And I think he's going to turn around and do just the same in Charlotte. And that team is rolling right now. We'll talk more about that later.
I really, really like the Lehkonen trade for both teams. I mean, for one, the Colorado Avalanche get better with a very solid middle six option. But I mean, I think the Habs fans can be really, really excited with Justin Barron. There's a reason why Avs fans didn't want to give up this prospect, and I have full confidence in Barron to step up with the Laval Rocket. He solidifies their defense. Like, this kid is good. The end of story. And I mean, the Rocket will definitely benefit from that. I mean, they have been a little up and down as of late, but especially in the stretch run to get into these expanded playoffs, you're going to need players like Barron to chip in from the back end with his offensive ability and his stable defense. It's a great pickup, and I think there's a lot of value for the Rocket, for the Habs organization from him.
One thing that's very interesting in my mind, though, is the teams that didn't make moves to help out their American Hockey League squad. I mean, just thinking off the top of my head, we didn't hear anything come down to the Hershey Bears, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Yes, you could say maybe Owen Tippett, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure he's going to stay with Philadelphia. You didn't hear anything for Rochester, Cleveland, the Texas Stars, the Silver Knights, you didn't hear anything going to those teams. Is it just an issue of the returns just weren't good enough, or maybe the GM's just saying, well, we're just going to go with it the way it is. I'm not going to risk my futures. What do you guys think about that?
I think for some of those, the first one that pops out to me is Henderson. I think that, Vegas was in such a tight strapped condition with the salary cap that they really couldn't make a whole lot of moves around with their roster to even give their depth a chance down in Henderson. I mean, look at the situation with Evgeny Dadonov. It's just a nightmare for Vegas right now. I mean, they've been trying to navigate this cap for their entire existence, it seems like. So when you need to make these real niche moves just to kind of allow yourself to be eligible to put a roster out there, it's almost like Henderson's kind of thrown off to the wayside. Like, we have bigger problems up here just trying to ice a team within the rules of the league. So that I can say that might have been a case there. I don't know if every team was that extreme as the Golden Knights were, but that certainly hampered them up. And it's something you got to consider in this day and age. You know, you want to move guys around, you want to fill some depth out. But one, no team is going to be doing you any favors. It's all what's in it for me. What do you really want for this guy? And you know, it's welcome to hockey management in 2022.
Well, speaking of Las Vegas specifically, as of the time we're talking about this, there's still a trade of theirs that's completely up in the air with Evgeny Dadonov. A whole huge situation brewing around a no trade list. Was it filed correctly? Who messed up? Anaheim was on it. Anaheim's the team that he got traded to. And they might be in some salary cap issues. So I could definitely see your point about the Silver Knights, but some of these other teams, especially that have cap space issue or that don't have cap space issues, like Columbus, you know, it was just kind of interesting to see. In a lot of ways, the trade deadline wasn't as active as I thought it was going to be. Some of the returns I didn't think were as big as what I was expecting, especially given last year when you have guys like David Savard and Nick Foligno pulling multiple picks, first rounders at that. And then this season, you see some one-on-one deals, a lot of future considerations. Just to me, was kind of overwhelming, but some teams did end up making the best of it.
Yeah, like
Well, go ahead.
I'll jump onto that actually. For instance, I'll use Vancouver as an example because it's so close to home. But they didn't do too much, even though they were expected. Some expected them to be sellers. Really, the only major move of any note was trading away Tyler Mott for a fourth rounder. It's interesting in that, whereas even though they didn't have that active of a deadline, it really worked out in a way that seemed to have benefited Abbotsford. I mean, they're going to give auditions to Will Lockwood and Jack Rathbone, both who are key contributors and AHL, more than ready, in my opinion, to step up to the NHL. So that will weaken the team. But on the other hand, they're sending down Vasily Podkolzin for the stretch run to the Calder Cup. This is a rookie who's former 10th overall pick. He's stepped into the league, become a top 9 contributor in his first season. And I mean, this guy has some serious high-end talent. So when you're sending him down to the AHL for that stretch run, as well as giving Nick Patan, Sheldon Rempel, all these leaders in Abbotsford, sending them down even due to a quieter deadline, it's given Abbotsford almost a sort of dark horse contender status just by almost doing nothing, in a sense. So there is that flip side where just the paper down transactions could have a bigger impact than the ones that went through.
And I think that Abbotsford has had to go against some really scary opponents in the Pacific Division. And I got to admit, I would be half nervous if I had to go against them in the playoffs. I mean, it's possibly time that we start talking about how well of a structured team that they are, right? And I think that's a big part of it as well. And I mean, for the Vegas Golden Knights, you know, you were saying, like, they're probably still on hold now. They probably have 5 or 6 phones all sitting around just still on hold with the league. So, I mean, it's been a bit of a mess of a trade deadline, if I'm going to be honest. 3 hours, 4 hours past deadline, and there's still moves coming in. It's never been like this before, and it kind of says a lot about, you know, kind of the depth of the trades that we're seeing. We're not seeing a whole lot, but we're seeing a lot of them with moving pieces, and teams really need to get under that salary cap, and that's a big part of it, is they have to move quickly.
That was one part that really perplexed me too, because a lot of times you're used to seeing maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, some trades after the trade deadline being announced, as, you know, they go ahead and go through that queue. But for full disclosure, I started really paying attention to the trade deadline around 2014. I personally don't remember any other deadline going on 2-3+ hours, and there are still announcements coming down about trades.
Makes you wonder if they're still operating on fax machines.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised one bit.
I mean, it would also go to explaining how Evgeny Dadonov's modified no trade clause that was on cap friendly, but apparently it was missed by 3 NHL front offices and the NHL head office and the NHLPA.
They need to hire a researcher exclusively just to double check the internet for those kinds of things from now on, because Cap Friendly is on it.
I'll do it.
Can I be your assistant? I'm looking for a new job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking for a new day job.
I'm shamelessly putting myself out there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge at NHL. This doesn't have to happen again.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw in a couple of winks. I'll throw in a few beverages of choice too to sweeten the deal. There were some good things about that trade deadline. And as we just talked, there were some oofs, but nothing was quite the oof as our oof of the week. And this one, we're going to have to give this to a group of fans. I hate to do it, but there's a group of fans that deserved it. And those group of fans are any fan of the Utica Comets who may have left Monday night's matchup against the Cleveland Monsters early. Why? Well, let me set the scene for you guys here. There's less than a minute remaining in the third period. Your team is down 2-0. Yeah, you think this one's over, right? Wrong. Well, here's a clip telling the rest of the tale. For those of you watching on YouTube TV, you'll be able to see it in full. For those of you just listening, you're going to hear the voice of Cleveland Monsters play-by-play announcer Tony Brown, and I think we can all hear the pain in his voice coming from the Monsters' point of view.
Well, they don't think the Comets can pull it off. They're heading for the exits here at 53.9 seconds left in regulation. Draw one back by Justin Scott. Sweezy, though, clapped as he tried to feed it around. Then it's poked in front of the net, and the Comets score! Lost his stick. Right point, big drive, they scored! No! Russo from the right point blasted when it was tipped on its way in, and the Comets at the top.
No!
Right? Right.
Let me paint the picture from the point of a fan, okay? You either have very terrible parking or you're just trying to catch a bus or something out of Utica, okay? You're like, oh, yeah, let me get out of here. You know, I can be first one out, 50 seconds. They're not going to do anything. Prove me wrong. They were still in the concourse.
But yes, that is right. Frederick Gauthier, AJ Greer at 1911 and 1936 of the third to ruin Jack Greaves' hopes of his very first pro shutout and maybe ruin the nights of a few Utica Comets fans that might have left early. Sent this one to OT. Then get this, guys. Overtime went like a marathon. Not a single whistle. Now, this following a game where there was not a single penalty called at all during the game. It was just a stare down between goaltenders, Jack Greaves and Merrick Smittens for the Comets. 34 and 35 saves, respectively. But in the end, it was Cleveland's Robbie Payne in the third round of the shootout who took this one home for the Monsters. But, man, if this was not a lesson to stay until the final whistle, I don't know what is. So if you left early just because you thought they were going to lose and you didn't have any other reason, then I'm sorry, but you take the oof this week.
Especially, for a team like Utica, okay, if you're in San Jose, I get it. Scott Reedy hasn't scored a goal in 3 months. You kind of don't feel like luck's on your side. I get it. But not Utica. One of the best teams in the league.
If anything can do it, Utica.
You definitely take you take that oof, you rest on it for the week, and we'll be back again next week. Hopefully you don't make the same mistake.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment, Swipe Left or Swipe Right. Now, this is a segment where the three guys are going to give us their hot takes of the week. Now, works just like any dating app. If we like the take, we're going to swipe right on it. That means it's good. If we really like the take, it's going to be super swipe up. Rule is you only get one of those a month. If we don't like it, we're going to swipe left. So just as always, Andrew, we're going to let you go first since you are sitting up there with the letter A.
That's a good letter. So we're going to reel back that point from earlier. And Charlotte Checkers, I love them. You know I love them. And I know that you love them. And besides having the best home barn in the land, again, I want to name drop that Bojangles Coliseum. They just added Victor Rass. They just added German Rubstoff. I mean, they're just on fire right now. The Atlantic's going to continue to be competitive all year, but I think I'm finally ready to put myself out there. The Checkers will be your 1 seed in the Atlantic Division in this playoff. It's spicy.
Very spicy.
I have I have some small issues, okay? And I'm starting to believe that not all glitz is glam. I have a deep fear that you're going to turn ugly on me. You're beautiful, amazing, an amazing match. Lovely. You judge the book by its cover, and boy, is the cover great. But that's just what it is, the cover. And I am starting to believe, yes, that we may actually have a really nice run, and they will jump towards the top of the standings at some point. But will they be able to stay there? They have to make up a little bit of momentum for the time that they lost there at the beginning of the season where they just weren't doing so well. And I think that all teams in the Atlantic Division have had their fun in the sun. We've seen Providence just shoot up out of nowhere. Hershey will say, oh, I want to play hockey again. There you go. Oh, Hartford? Yeah, sure. You can have your spot in the first. And same with Providence. So for me, I do think that they'll go up and they'll shoot up. And who knows, they might even finish second. But I don't know if I can put all my chips right now in that first seed spot for the Atlantic Division. I really want to, but knowing the way that the house goes in this, it's best not to put down my chips.
I don't know how to feel about. On one hand, I definitely see where you're coming from. I firmly believe that the Checkers have one of the most talented, if not the most talented, forward group in the Atlantic. Like they have riches from the Panthers. They have players on loan from Seattle. It's a great team. The only thing is that I don't think that Springfield's going to let up. Springfield was surprisingly intact for a contending team. They didn't really give up anything from the farm for the St. Louis Blues. And Springfield, I mean, hey, they've got themselves a hell of a 1D pairing. So I think that I'm going to have to say that Springfield holds on to the first seed. I think Charlotte can probably and will probably take the second seed, but Springfield will take that first seed. So I'll swipe left.
Andrew, I've got you. You know why I'm going to swipe right on this? Okay, so right now, looking at the Atlantic Division standings, no team has a better record in the past 10 than than Charlotte. My mistake. 8-1, 1-0. They're on a 4-0, 1-0 streak. Guess who they have a back-to-back series against this weekend? Cleveland, who is starting to struggle once again. This will be first time that Zack Dalby is going to be returning home to the Monsters. That gives them extra incentive to win both games. With that and the streak that they've been on, they are hot coming down the stretch, and I personally think they can do it. That points percentage is so tight between 1 and 3, where Charlotte is right now. Charlotte's at a 0.6. Springfield's only at a 0.612. I think it can happen. I'm going to swipe right.
Not gonna lie, that did play a little bit into my decision when I was looking
at all.
But what if the jinx strikes again and then they just go, we forget how to play hockey?
Yeah, well, it wasn't Zach's hot take, it was mine.
Okay, fair, very fair.
And at that point, I just delete the app and forget I ever did anything with it. That's why you keep all communication in the app and don't share your phone number until you really get to know the person.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hacked by a Zacker bot. What am I going to do? My team is terrible again.
All right. For my hot take, I don't think the Reign are the second best team in the Pacific. I don't. The Reign are very, very good. Do not get me wrong. They've the where they are right now in the standings is reflective of a very strong start, but that's also been reflective of very good health. Up with Los Angeles has been absolutely decimated. They've seen call-ups. They have brought up Fagamo. They brought up Turcotte. Jersey's up there almost permanently at this point. The Reign right now are still one of the most dangerous teams in the AHL. But in my opinion, in a very competitive Pacific division, they will not finish number 2. I think it can go to. I think Colorado can take that number 2 spot. Maybe Ontario can prove me wrong, but right now I don't see them as the second best team in the Pacific.
That's spicy. That's really spicy. And I get where you're coming from. They've lost a lot of key pieces going up to LA because LA's needed them right now. It's just that the gap there, I mean, you got Ontario coming in at 689 point percentage versus Colorado, who's 609. And there's only 13 games left. I mean, theoretically, Colorado can do it. I think trading Justin Barron away is a big, big blow to that blue line. And it might just make the difference at the end of the day. Ontario's also got a couple games coming up against Grand Rapids, who did not look good against Rockford, and that's starting tonight, the night of this recording. So I have no idea how this is going to reflect on Thursday. But I like where you're coming from. Colorado's a really good team, and if we're talking maybe some teams in the North or the Atlantic, some teams that are a little closer, I would totally be on board with this. But I think Ontario was just so hot to start the season, keeping neck and neck with Stockton for trading that 1-2 spot all year long. And, you know, the call-ups kind of caught up to them here, but still a really good team. There's just not enough track there for that train, so I'm going to have to swipe left.
Fair enough.
And yeah, it's going to have to be a immediate swipe left. I mean, I love Colorado. That's no doubt about it. And I think that they earned a fantastic number 3 seed in the AHL. But when I think about kind of Ontario, and they've actually been keeping up really well, 35 wins as opposed to 33. The point percentage is minor in difference. Stockton has had a 5-game win streak without that, points in their past 5-6. I mean, when we kind of look at that to me kind of says, okay, well, if Stockton wasn't as good in this run and, you know, Ontario was just a tad bit better, we would see a totally different, you know, standings in the lineup. And it wasn't too long ago that we were only talking about Ontario being one of those teams that could clinch the playoffs really early on. And I don't think that that's really changed that narrative. I mean, I love Colorado again, but I just don't see them kind of refilling that gap. So it's going to have to be a left for me.
Well, just to add a little bit of data into this, actually, Ontario can clinch a playoff berth on the night that we're recording. So it's Tuesday, the 22nd. They can clinch tonight if they win versus Grand Rapids, or if it's an overtime or shootout loss versus Grand Rapids and a San Jose loss of any kind versus Stockton.
That's going to happen.
I'm going to put a couple of chips on that one there. And just
yeah. If this was, say, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have swiped right. A, just because of how spicy this take is. And B, I mean, okay, let me add on to that saying if I was looking at these same streaks, at this same past 10 record, I would have definitely swiped right a month ago. But given that they can clinch tonight, I just think there's way way too few games for Colorado, plus Ontario has 2 games in hand. I'm sorry, Michael, but I got to swipe left too.
Fair enough. This is why it's a hot take, right?
100%.
So mine's a wee bit less spicy, but I'm looking at the bottom leaders, the bottom feeders. We're kind of talking right here. We've seen the cement shoes. And while I do often get chills by San Jose's stats, I got to say that they're not as bad as Tucson. Tucson has got to be playing some of the worst AHL hockey I have seen in a long time. Like, this is bad. Like, they're number 2 in their division for penalty minutes. Their last 10 going into Tuesday, a 2-6-2 record. San Jose has double that with a 4-4-1. So what I'm proposing is that San Jose, who's been playing better, will move ahead of Tucson, and Tucson will bury at the bottom of the league.
I'm gonna super swipe that, honestly. That's what I'm using my super swipe on. I absolutely agree. Tucson, at the start of the year, they were fine, but then again, you look at the call-ups that Arizona made. McKelly's gone. McKelly was one of the brightest spots for this Roadrunners team. Then you have Protasov. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. The goalie prospect. He's up in the NHL now. He was a huge backbone to all of to Tucson being the decent team that they were early on in the year. Honestly, I think that they have a very good chance of finishing at the bottom because they don't have anything that can really withstand the amount of penalties that they take, the amount of times they're shorthanded, and just the mediocre hockey that they're showing.
I just want to say this is the easiest super swipe up ever because that's how the standings are already. And in the past 10, Tucson is 2-6-2-0 compared to San Jose's 5-2-1-2. Each team has 15 and 16 games remaining for San Jose, then Tucson. Yeah, there's no way Tucson's catching up. That's a super swipe for me, 100% hands down.
I always like to look at goal differential whenever I try and measure teams against one another. And, that's also kind of what helped me with Charlotte was that they nearly have 30 more goals scored than they've given up. And, okay, I think I'm well documented ragging on San Jose quite often here on this podcast, who have 169 goals scored and 216 given up. And okay, that 216 is a big number. It's the biggest one in the AHL. Tied for, actually, now with Rockford. Thank you, Amerks. But Tucson has given up 70 more goals than they've scored. 70. That's not mediocre hockey. That is bad, bad, bad hockey. Yeah, I'm going to super swipe on that one. They're atrocious.
It's a clean sweep from Zack. Man, does he have some options on his plate now?
I gotta add a little more spice. Holy. If I had known, I would have added just a wee bit more. Oh, I feel loved.
You gotta get some of that Michael spice on over there at some of your takes.
Ooh. He's got that Michael's red hot sauce going, so
always
a little taste of that.
You know who's not playing bad hockey? Zachary Hayes and Jeff Malott. They have been playing good enough hockey that they have moved up into the National Hockey League. And we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at them in our They Grow Up So Fast segment. So Zachary Hayes actually made his debut with the Vegas Golden Knights in it's a 3-0 loss against the Minnesota Wild at the XL Energy Center this past Monday. But he had 15 shifts in 9 minutes and 22 seconds of ice time. And he has spent of this season and last with Hendersonville. So not a bad showing against a Vegas Golden Knights team that, well, they're dealing with issues both on and off the ice right now. And that Minnesota Wild squad, wow, boy, are they looking good. So yeah, congratulations to Mr. Hayes. And then also we had a second debut in Sunday's Winnipeg versus Chicago matchup. Jeff Malott with the Winnipeg Jets tallying 2 penalty minutes in 4 minutes in 6 seconds and 8 shifts in a 6-4 victory. He is currently in his second season with the Manitoba Moose.
Yeah, Jeff Malott, he's leading the Moose in goal scoring, second in points, and I just wanted to come up here and check his stats out, but I'm absolutely blown away that with how well Manitoba's doing and all the great talent that they have on their roster, they don't have a single player who's scored over 30 points yet. Not one. Malott's there at second. He has 18 goals and 10 assists for 28 on the season. And their leader, Cole Meyer, has 29. I think that kind of just shows like the, production by committee that's going on over there in Manitoba, because yeah, they don't have anyone who's over 30 points, but they have 9 guys who have at least 23. So they'll beat you with just anyone on their roster. It's amazing. I'm so used to following Chicago, and it's like, well, yeah, of course the team's doing well. This guy's got 1 billion points this week. So shout out to Andrew Podorowski, but that it's wonderful seeing what the Moose are doing and how they're having success without just, riding the coattails of one talented line or something like that. It's all 4 lines buying in there, and that kind of really shows it. So congratulations to Jeff Malott up there making the most. I mean, I was going to make a joke about how it's not a far drive for Manitoba to go to Winnipeg, but it's the same arena, so it really doesn't fit. But hey, gets to hang out.
Uber surcharges.
Yeah.
Makes it nice and simple. So, what else is making life simple for us is the Atlantic Division in our quest for the Holy Grail. Wow. I mean, you guys said it last week. We're going to say it again this week. This is a division that absolutely has itself set in terms of who's going to make this playoffs. The only thing left to decide is seeding. Basically, just a little bit of jostling around the center. Otherwise, everyone's in the same spot. So, of course, Springfield is still sitting number 1. Then you have Providence, Charlotte, Hartford, Hershey, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Bridgeport, and then trailing down at the bottom are the Lehigh Valley Phantoms.
As they're known to do.
Yeah.
Well, in the North, there's been a few changes over the past few days and past week, and it's sun rises, Cleveland's at the bottom. Sun sets, Cleveland is still at the bottom. I think they forgot how to win. But when we talk about the kind of North Division, and it's really been a big changes all throughout, mostly the middle. It's been a bit of a sandwich, but Belleville kind of taking a nosedive, going from 3rd to 6th, which is kind of scary, actually, how quickly something can change in the North Division. Going up and down, Utica, Laval, who's been on a huge tear recently, especially in their past couple of games. Then we're starting to see the Marlies down there, the Americans, the Crunch, the Senators. And way down is Cleveland.
As we move over to the Central, I just want to say huzzah! We finally have some movement in the standings. It's not a lot, but enough to report on. So in the middle of the pack here in the Central, Rockford's riding a 3-game winning streak, and they've jumped over the Griffins for that 4 spot in the Central. While the Texas Stars, they've finally left the basement. Iowa, the floor is now yours, literally. Chicago remains at the top on the heels of a 12-game point streak, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon, but Manitoba's really not making life easy for them. They got points in 9 straight games, including 7 wins, and don't think they're going to catch Chicago by the time season's over, but they're going to be a force there at that number 2 seed in the Central. Behind them, you got Milwaukee, you got Rockford, Grand Rapids, Iowa, not in the basement. Texas, not in the basement. Iowa is in the basement. So the Wild have been kind of trending that direction for a while now, and, well, here you go.
Remember when the Wild used to be like terribly good? They had like Gerald Mayhew, and they were like star-studded. It seems so long ago.
It was just 2 seasons ago.
2 seasons.
Well, last season Jerry Mayhew was on Iowa, and they were okay, but they just kept playing Chicago every other day and would just get dummied by the Wolves. So,
as they've done to many teams this season,
as many teams have, yeah, except apparently Toronto.
Absolutely. And I mean, out west, it's a competitive division. So up top, obviously, you've got the Stockton Heat, who've been able to clinch themselves a playoff spot. And I mean, we all saw that coming. Ontario Reign are not far behind. And then 3 through 5 are very compacted together. You have the Colorado Eagles, who are 7-2-1, 7-2-1-0 in their past 10. They sit with 67 points through 55 games played with a 0.609 point percentage. Then you have the Abbotsford Canucks, who have really surged as of late. I mean, they put together a solid string of results. They beat Bakersfield just the other day. Jack Rathbone's return to face off against the team that he was injured against, which was a pretty good contest for them as well. The Canucks, they sit 4th currently with 63 points, 0.594 points percentage, also 7-2-1-0. It'll be interesting to see if they can make up that gap in the next few games. Then you have Bakersfield, last of the ones. Any of these teams could really do damage to each other. And I mean, with how the deadline played out, there are a lot of things to look into with the Pacific. You got Henderson in sort of no man's land. They kind of bridge the gap between the first 5 to the last 3, and the last 3, as usual, not much to write home about. You've got the San Diego Gulls, who have struggled all year with injuries, with consistency. They have talent, they just could never get off the ground. Unfortunately for the Gulls, they'll get grounded yet again. Doesn't look like they have a shot of making any noise going forward. And then obviously the San Jose Barracuda, the Tucson Roadrunners. I mean, they're imprinted in the basement. No fault of their own. Well, actually, might be faults of their own, but it's a tough division to play against, especially when you have so many good teams stacked up top. San Jose has done all right. They've been treading water, and Tucson, I don't know what happened, but Willie E. Coyote might have dropped the ACM anvil on him finally.
I think he finally got him.
He took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Quality classic cartoon references going on here. I feel awful for San Diego. Is that 7 seed? They're gonna have to play Ontario, and that oh my God! There's gonna be children watching. It's gonna be bad. But
it's already dead.
Oh,
exactly. But honestly, maybe outside of that series, I know the Atlantic and the North have just been total chaos the last couple weeks, but even though in the standings there hasn't been as much jostling out west, I think when the postseason starts, my eye is going to be on the Pacific. I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier. I mean, they got teams all down that standing that can make noise, and it goes beyond just the top 2. I mean, obviously, Stockton gets all the billing, Ontario with the bright lights and the flashy goals and all that, but Colorado sitting there at number 3 could easily sneak in a couple wins and get out of that bracket. Or even, I mean, Bakersfield is no joke, and if you're not, I mean, and Abbotsford has been playing really well. It's going to be a bracket of just just really good hockey at the end of the day, save for Ontario just, waxing San Diego real quick. But beyond that, I think I really got my eye on the Pacific. It's a lot of fun.
I wouldn't want to do bracketology for them at all.
All right, now we know where these teams have been and everything that's happened. Let's look to the future. So, guys, give us your picks. Let's start with the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, I want to start off with I got Saturday's game. We got Springfield going into Providence. And can we talk about Providence's weekend for a minute? So they come off the wrong side of a sweep against Bridgeport, and they go into a need-to-win series against Charlotte, and they lose all 3 of those games in shootouts. I mean, I can't think of a worse way to go. I think I'd rather lose in regulation. I mean, the loser points for now, they kind of keep them in that second spot in the Atlantic by just the slimmest of margins, but here we go on Saturday, and the T-Birds are coming into town. The Bruins really need to get it together this weekend. Or, I don't know, maybe they just need to binge watch some Pavel Datsyuk highlights, get some of those shootout points back. But I think those 3 points that they drop against the Checkers, those are really going to count when we come to tallying up the final total at the end of April.
For me, it's also a Springfield game, but it's Springfield versus Hartford on Friday. This is a lot closer than the standings might imply. I mean, Springfield sits up top right now. Hartford is in 4th. But these are 2 teams that have been very similar in these past couple games. I mean, Springfield was posting a 5-5 record, while Hartford's gone 4-5-1. It's going to be an even matchup. And if Hartford really wants to solidify themselves as a team that could do anything, no better game than this one to prove it. I mean, hey, Springfield, they've been sitting up top for that Atlantic Division in a long time. So why not take a run at them, see what damage they can do.
Yeah, and for me, I'm kind of going with Providence and Utica, and I like to think that either one of these teams can come away with a win. I mean, Utica has had their flaws, and so has Providence, and I think that's kind of a big determining factor. It's hard to kind of talk about how well Providence is in their division, especially because it's just so contentious, right? But Utica, on the other hand, has been seeing a lot of changes at their feet. So I think for both these teams, it's good points to kind of be able to get off one of another.
And as we move on over to the north here, I'm going to take Friday night's game. We got the Marlies playing in Rochester. And Jeremy's not here, but Jeremy, I want to ask you, are the Amerks back?
Totally.
This division just kind of shuffles around like a deck of cards every week. One week you're third, and then the next week you're on the outside looking in. Looking at you, Belleville. Well, let's see if the Amerks are here to stay, or if we'll be talking about them next week and, what they need to do to get back in sense.
Well, for me, another Friday night pick. It's going to be Utica versus Syracuse. Syracuse, like we mentioned before, and mentioned just previously, they're looking to claw their way back into this race. They've got some good players. They've got Riley Nash now. It should be a lot more interesting with how good the Comets have still probably the best team in the North Division. But if you're the Crunch, you're going to be looking to try and get some points out of this matchup. They're perfectly capable of doing it. And there's no better time than now to really try and pit those Americans for that fourth spot.
I'm looking at Friday's contest between Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and Belleville. It's as simple as this. Easy money, Belleville. You have to start winning, because if you don't, there will be bad things that will happen. That's the easiest way I could put it. You have to win against Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. That's all I have to say.
We move on over to the Central. I'm going Friday night again, and we got Manitoba going into Chicago. And I mean, do I really need to explain this? I mean, hottest team in the division, top team in the division, 1 and 2. What more do you want?
What a surprise! You took the words right out of my mouth. My pick is also Manitoba Chicago. It promises to be a barn burner. Having seen what the Moose are capable of, having seen what Chicago's capable of, it's always a good time when these two play. And luckily, as someone who doesn't have any stakes involved, it's just entertaining hockey to watch.
They're two heavyweights who are going to be throwing hands. Okay, Manitoba, 7 of their last 10. Chicago's not far off of that. Chicago has been good all year. Manitoba, I continue to praise of how good they are. And I think this is just going to be just two heavyweights. Just going to be, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what goal scoring is. It's going to be a crazy game. It's going to be like 7-8. It's going to be the game to watch.
I hope so. So now as we get on to the West Coast and the Pacific, I'm going again with Friday, and we're going with Abbotsford at Stockton. You got a team on fire recently in Abbotsford going into town against a team that's been on fire all year in Stockton. 3 straight wins for the Canucks, and the Heat just dropping a 10 spot on a really good Colorado team. This, I think, kind of same thing. You're going to see some hands being thrown, and as we get closer to playoff hockey, these two teams are going to be wanting to send a message, and they mean so much more and more as you get to the end of the season. So it's going to be real high intensity. Gonna love every minute of it.
Can't agree more with that pick. If Abbotsford wants to claim that they can make noise in the playoffs, there's no better opportunity than this game right here, just to really show what they're made of. Go against a team that has been consistently the best team in their division. It promises to be a good game. Both teams firing on all cylinders, and there's so much talent on both of these rosters that it's can't miss hockey right there.
Some more can't miss hockey is also going to be on Friday night when Henderson and Tucson go against each other. It's going to be a barn burner, and both teams have been struggling. And I mean, like, we're talking like Mount Everest is looking pretty steep right now. Like 2 wins each. So 4 combined wins over their past 20 games, both of these teams. So they've had 2 wins in their past 10. If that makes any sense. Given the playoff race, Henderson can't afford to be losing because they don't want to end up like San Diego. So they need to win. This is the chance to win. Someone is actually going to have 3 wins in their past 10 games after this game. This is going to be the barn burner to watch.
Wait. 2 teams combined for 4 wins in their combined last 20 games.
Yes.
Is it too late to redo the oof for this week? Because, ouch. Oh, that's bad.
We'll wait to see what the game looks like this week. And then next week, whoever loses will probably get the oof.
They're just going with the casino. Look, I have 10 chips. Oh, perfect. I have 10 chips as well. Here we go. We can put it all on black. One of us might be able to get into the playoffs. Perfect.
Oh, goodness. Well, we're just about done with this show, but I owe you guys a makeup bonus round. Now, I was out quite under the weather last week, so I have a makeup bonus round, and I decided to go with a slight variation on trade deadline inspired. So I have some numbers and some facts here. So we're going to go. So I'm going to give you a stat category, and you're just going to give me a number. Just closest wins, 4 different categories. Are you guys set?
Yeah.
All right. So a team, namely the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks from 2000 to 2001, set the record for the most goaltenders used in one season. How many goaltenders did they use?
13.
8.
I'll say 12.
Oh, Michael got burned again. Andrew, you were right on with 12.
Are you kidding?
Like, to be fair, I didn't do that to Price is Right, you, Michael. I was thinking 12 in my head.
For
That's a
those
good
of you
number.
that weren't here for our Olympics episode, where it was a heartbreaker to end our bonus round, then where our dear co-host Jeremy Paul, Price is Right, Michael, to take the win, but it's okay. We got 3 more categories, Michael. Maybe you can come back.
Maybe one of them.
Okay, so the Providence Bruins in the 1999 to 2000 season set the AHL record for the most players used in a season. How many players suited up for the Providence Bruins that year?
42.
51.
60 on the nose.
Okay, Zack was the closest, 70.
Oh.
That's 3 rosters and then change.
Yep. All right, so Zack's got 1, Andrew's got 1. Third category, here we go. Now, we see a lot of players come and go at trade deadline, but there is one player that has the record, the AHL record, for the most games played with the same club and the most seasons with the same club. The number I want first is, how many seasons did this person with the Cleveland Barons play to set the AHL record?
15.
Okay, 15.
Seasons, right?
Seasons, yes.
13.
17.
Okay, we got a tiebreaker because it is 16.
Oh.
I didn't want to Price is Right you. I did it.
Okay. So we'll just go ahead and give you 2 the same point, and then if we need the tiebreaker, we can do the tiebreaker. So you guys will both just get a point. So this member of the Cleveland Barons, 16 seasons. How many games did he play? It's also the record for the most games played with the same club in AHL history.
What?
1,028.
1,300.
1,200?
Michael gets this point. It was 992. So hey there, Editor Deana here. Turns out I goofed in this segment. The actual winner was Andrew with the answer of 1,028. Michael said 1,200. For some reason in my mind, I thought Andrew had said 1,228. So I apologize for that, but here we go. Back on into the show. All right. So that means we have a tiebreaker between Zack and Andrew, if I'm not mistaken. Do either one of you know who that player is?
We talked about him, God.
I'm glad I'm not doing this.
Oh, no, I don't remember him.
Nope, I can come up with another tiebreaker, but his name is Fred Glover.
That's right.
That sounds familiar.
No, it's all coming back to me.
So we spent a little bit of time talking about the playoffs. I'm just looking at the playoff primer and the clinching amount of points that each team needs to solidify their spot in the 2022 Calder Cup playoff picture. What is the greatest number of points that are needed at this point to secure a spot?
Greatest number?
The greatest number of points. And yes, that does include the bottom feeders.
Right. So I would assume a team like Tucson, who would have to win every game, the 36.
I'll go 30 on the nose.
It's actually 45. So Andrew wins.
Ooh.
That number belongs to not Tucson, but Cleveland.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It does make sense, does it not?
Yeah, I was.
All right.
Yeah, I was just thinking of like doubling up. Like, okay, Tucson probably has to win every single game, but that's not necessarily true because they just have to outlast like San Jose and San Diego. So, really?
All right, guys, that is going to be it for the Holy Grail for this week. Thank you for sticking around. I owe you a cookie if you are still here after almost an hour 20. We appreciate you. But as always, if you like us, please subscribe, like, share, rate this podcast, tell all your friends. And if you really like us and want to follow more of our opinions and to talk to us a little bit, give us all a follow on Twitter. You can find me at FPH Monsters.
You can find me at either FPH Wolves or at FPH Griffins.
As for me, you can find me at FPH Canucks.
FPH Marlies, baby.
All right. And also, you can check out all of our written work at fieldpasshockey.com. If I may give a little plug to a very important piece that Andrew Rinaldi has dropped this week. Andrew, if you can just do like a quick little plug about it, because I think this should be required reading for anybody who enjoys hockey and is following the situation in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, sure. So Chicago Wolves forward Ivan Ladnia comes from, he was born here in America, but his parents are Ukrainian immigrants. And I was able to get a quick sit down with him and just talk to him about how this war has just rampaged through the nation of Ukraine, how his parents as Ukrainian immigrants have really dealt with it, how him as a child of Ukrainian immigrants who has family over there in the crosshairs has just dealt with this and has continued to pursue a career in hockey, and just how the strength it requires as a family and as a human being to get through this kind of situation. I mean, I was extremely humbled to have the opportunity to chat with Ivan. He's a fantastic human who was raised by, I'm sure, fantastic parents and a very warm and loving family who just wants to see peace in their land, and I think that's kind of what we're all hoping for here. So you can follow my FPH Wolves account on Twitter. I have the article pinned on the profile. It's real easy to find, and I would consider giving Ivan a follow as well. He's got some links on his profiles that allow fans of all hockey spheres to, if they want, donate to Ukrainian refugees, or there's even one for a special account for the Bank of Ukraine, which leads directly to their armed forces helping to defend their nation. So every little bit helps. I think we're all in this together, even if it's first. I mean, it feels like it's across the world, and it is, but for some of us, it hits a lot closer to home. So that's kind of what I've been working on lately.
Absolutely. And again, please read that. It's Andrew, I'm not going to beat around the bush. You did amazing work on that. And it's just, like I said, required reading. Please go read it. You can check out all of our other written work at fieldpasshockey.com. And also be sure to check out all of the other podcasts on the Field Pass Hockey Network, including Inside the SPHL with James Hayes, the 3 Periods podcast with Matthew Harding, Syracuse Speaks with Alexander Ackerman, and of course, Monsters Musings with Jacob Forster and myself. So on behalf of all of us here at the Holy Grail, we hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you all next Thursday. Bye.
This has been the Holy GrAHL podcast. Have a question or a topic suggestion? Hit us up on Twitter or drop us an email. For the latest news across the American Hockey League and the rest of minor league hockey, download the Field Pass Hockey app, now available in the Apple and Android app stores.